Know what to eat, but find yourself not eating it. Perhaps you've been on diets and off again and just wonder why you can't stick to them. The Eating For You podcast, hosted by me, Sally Ann Pisk, will show you what's been missing so you can enjoy a healthier way of eating that lasts. Hi, Sally Ann with you, and it's a very special week, World Wellbeing Week. So I've taken the podcast onto the couch for this episode. So if I sound a little bit differently, I'm using a different microphone and I'm in a different room. Wellbeing Week is an opportunity for all of us to reflect on what well-being means to us. Certainly we can look at the descriptions most used, and it's about our health and happiness in all areas of our life, whether that be our personal relationships, our career, our sense of purpose in life, our finances, our mental, physical, emotional and spiritual health and well-being. All important. So is having fun and being able to recognise what we need in this moment. And through my reflections in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you some tips that I've learned along the way that have really benefited me and my clients as well. Sometimes to describe what something is, we need to understand what it isn't. I remember quite a tumultuous time in my life in my 20s, and you would have heard me talk about how the sudden death of my brother really made me look at my relationship with food, but it also helped me look at my health and well-being from a much bigger picture as well. And that was to realize I had this pattern of go, 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 burnout, go, 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 burnout. And I had grown up seeing one of my parents do this and not realizing that I had adopted this approach to everything in my life. And it started me on a journey of trying to understand how I could find that middle way for me, that point where I could continue participating in life without getting chronic fatigue, bronchitis, every flu virus that was going around and would keep me in bed for a week. I wanted to move beyond that, and it allowed me to explore different approaches and philosophies to health and well-being. I started very much with, I suppose what would be called now positive psychology, looking at affirmations, looking at what my mind was telling me that was going on in my current situation. And I looked at self-help books, and I remember one in particular, and we tend to talk about well-being or the wellness circle of life, including different things in our life, our relationships, our family, our career, our finances, our health, our sense of purpose, and that time for fun. And the idea was, it's a circle graph, I think it's called a vector graph, and the idea was that there were like spokes of a wheel coming out from the middle of this circle, and you would, on a scale of 1 to 7, evaluate where each of these aspects of your life were in that moment in time. And the idea is that when you joined up the dots on these spokes, you'd end up with a circle. Well, mine always looked more like a star, and it used to really frustrate me. And I realise now that in many ways, back in my 20s and my early 30s, my pursuit of health and happiness actually caused a lot of distress and probably a lot of my burnout and fatigue, because I was expecting this perfect circle for my life. But life's not like that. And we have to be careful that whether it's our health, whether it's our work, whether it's taking care of our children or our elderly parents, that we don't overcommit or we don't set the expectations too high, something that's unrealistic to maintain and preserve our own health and happiness. And I will, refer to well-being as health and happiness because that's what it is for me. And it's a place where I know, or an experience where I know I have enough in my fuel tank, that no matter what happens, the unexpected always happens, that I'll be able to deal with it. And modern psychology really calls this resilience, being able to do what you need to do to manage change without reacting, without overtaxing our energy reserves. So another way of looking at well-being is being able to go with the ups and downs of life. And I look back at my early adult years, and I was kind of going, from the base of the Grand Canyon in the States to the top of Mount Everest. That's what the fluctuations in my life, in my mood, in my feelings of confidence and happiness and health was like. It was like the lowest low to the highest high, literally. And it was a useful metaphor for me to say, well, how can I make the valleys less deep and the mountaintops not as high? So it comes back to that concept of middle way, this middle ground, this way of living where we feel calm and centered, capable to manage challenges as they come along without experiencing those deepest deeps and those highest highs. And you might have your own experience of this where you can remember feeling so low that you would never get back to even base level. And I like to think of it, sometimes it's useful having a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you today on that scale of 1 to 10? Whether it's your energy levels, whether it's your mood, whether it's your physical health, where are you on that scale of 1 to 10? And I assure you, I sometimes felt like I was at minus 100. So if you're in that minus 100 today, then please be reassured it's a place that you're there just for a short time. You don't have to be there any longer than getting together some things in your toolkit with the help of your healthcare practitioners and your friends and family to get back to a level where you feel able to do everything in life that you really want to. Having said that, I know some of us have different requirements in life and sometimes different abilities, and we need to be able to set our expectations for us and not compare ourselves to somebody else. I always wanted to be the fastest runner, but in my local competition for little athletics, I would come second. And it didn't matter how much I trained, how much effort I put in to crossing that finish line first, I would come second. And I had to accept, it was a good early lesson for me that there was always going to be someone better than me, but then there was always going to be someone who wasn't able to perhaps run as fast as I could or climb as high as I could. And that's life. We all have different talents and abilities. And again, when I established Eating for You, that's why the 3 pillars were so important. And the first one is very much about knowing yourself. So when we look at our well-being, as I said, where are you today? How are you feeling today? What level is your energy today? Or another way to look at it is how much fuel have you got in your tank? And is it good quality fuel that's going to sustain you through today, tomorrow, and next week? And I'm going to be sharing, stay with me, because I'm going to be sharing this concept, a very simple concept to help you avoid going below zero, below empty. The second pillar for eating for you is knowing your food and what nourishes you. So our approach is very much looking at everything in life that nourishes us. And this is something I'm going to be coming back to very soon. And the third pillar for eating for you is knowing how to introduce and live with change. Because there's one thing for certain in life, is that things change. Our bodies change throughout our lifetime. And every woman who has gone through the different transitions of life understands this. Going through puberty, perhaps you've had children, then going through perimenopause and menopause. There are so many changes in life, and they're the ones within our own body, let alone those that are happening to our loved ones, to our community, to our country, and worldwide. And I think the biggest appreciation most recently for the importance of well-being was during the COVID pandemic, where for the first time, a lot of people were fearful. They were fearful of their lives. They were fearful for their loved ones' lives. And that value of health and happiness became so important. But sometimes as life gets easier again, we forget the importance of investing in our health and well-being. So when I talk about things that nourish us, it's really simple. And it was something that I learned through a friend and colleague of mine, Russell, and he's a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. So I met Russell during a big transition in my life. A relationship had broken down. I'd taken on this new job with lots of extra responsibilities and the requirement to develop new skills. And I wasn't dealing with it that well. I wasn't even eating that well. And this was at a time early in my recovery, if you like, from the loss of my brother as well. So that was sitting in the background, that ongoing grieving process. And I hadn't quite got to face my troubled relationship with food. So yeah, I had a lot of stuff going on. And I remember him saying to me about this concept of qi. And qi is maybe known as prana, maybe known as life force energy. It may just be called a solid foundation for our health. It could be referred to as your battery. It could be referred to as your fuel tank. But what I love about Eastern medicine is the simplicity. And through Russell's encouragement, I started researching and reading so many books, textbooks, also journal articles, research papers on traditional Chinese medicine, and some of the concepts around energy, around nourishing ourselves with food and other choices we make in life. And this is where this very simple concept of our energy comes from what we do, what we think, how we feel. We're giving out. There's a cost in our day. Me talking to you now, I'm using energy. You're using some energy to listen to me. You use energy to go walking. You use a lot of energy when you're worried about something. But we also replenish our energy through sleep, through relaxation, through watching a funny movie or listening to music that we love, or just taking time to sit and mindfully drink our cup of tea or coffee. So the idea to stay well, to stay healthy, is to be adding more into our fuel tank than what we're taking out. Let me say that again. The key to staying well and happy is to make sure we're putting more into our fuel tank than what we're taking out. Sounds simple, doesn't it? We know when our car runs out of fuel, it doesn't go anywhere. And we're the same. And I think one of our reluctances to actually replenish on a daily basis is denial, that we actually get tired. We believe we can do everything, we can be everything to everyone, but if we don't replenish, we do burn out. And in my recent podcast, what was last week with Multi, when we were talking about yoga, that idea that go, 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 do, 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 we can get fatigued. We can get adrenal fatigue. We can have chronic fatigue like I did during year 12 and into my early 20s. There's so many things that can happen to our health. It literally can stop us. You know, if we don't have the fuel in the tank, we can't do anything. And so many people would say to me, I wished I had done something before this happened. But again, it's not about what's happened in the past. It's about what you can do now. And this is why every opportunity we get to say, well, what small thing can I do today to improve my health and happiness is the right thing for you to do. And it's not about massive overhauls. Like I said to you, when I used to do those graphs, those vector graphs, and have a star instead of a circle. Now, don't get me wrong, I like stars and I think we're all stars, but that was not the point of this exercise. I was supposed to have this perfect circle. What is perfect? You know, who are you evaluating yourself on? You know, and at different stages in our life, there's different things happening, and how much we can contribute to work, how much we can contribute to friends and social occasions or volunteer work, it changes. And that is why the first pillar in the Eating for You approach is so valuable, to know yourself. One of the first things I understood about this integration of mind and body was literally checking in each day. And a colleague of mine, an Ayurvedic doctor from India, said, Sally Ann, to help you make more mindful choices through your day, it's important to not only check in with your body in the morning, but also your mind. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling happy? You know, do you have amazing amounts of energy to get you through anything during the day? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling sluggish? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling angry? Checking in with our emotional state is so important, because it's going to help us make choices to help us bring back that sense of balance, that sense of calm. Otherwise, our day is going to be literally directed by our emotions. Same as check how your body feels. You know, that's something we tend to do. Oh, you know, my neck feels a bit sore, or my ankle feels a bit sore, and we gingerly put our feet onto the ground as we get out of bed, compared to when our body is feeling very comfortable and strong, we might leap out of bed. So that knowing yourself is so important. So how do we do that? It literally is just about observing. Remove the judgment though. Don't feel like you've got to be rating yourself all the time, or getting that perfect 7 for every part of your life all the time. It's about what makes you feel good, what makes you feel solid, as in you have that energy reserve to get you through your day. But not only get you through your day, in a way that you enjoy it. And this is something else that Multi and I touched on last week, was that practice of gratitude, being thankful for what we do have, being thankful for what we can do. And as I said, at different times of our life, that changes. So I want to come back to this concept of topping up your chi, or topping up your tank every day. One thing I became very aware of during perimenopause is what my mind and body needed one day could be slightly different or very different the next day. And especially when it came to movement, some days I'd want to get out into nature, do a very hard, brisk, energizing hike. Other days I just want to do a really calming, soothing yoga practice. And this is where, when we look at our health goals, we have to be very careful, because we set goals like, I'll go to the gym 5 days a week, I'll run 5 days a week, I'll hike, or I'll swim, or I'll cycle, whatever your goal might be. But our body is not the same every day. And my fear for you is, if you set really concrete goals like that, if you don't stick to them, you'll feel like you've failed. And what do when we feel like we've failed? We give up on our health goals altogether. So this sense of well-being and this sense of being able to nourish ourselves every day requires some mindfulness as well, to really check in the morning. How's my mind feeling? How's my body feeling? Now, doing yoga instead of going for a run or a hike is not an easy option. It's not, it's not fooling yourself. It's actually honoring your mind and body. So there's a little bit of a mindset change that may be required for some, because sure, we can make excuses, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, it's too wet, or it's too cold, it's too windy, I slept in, I won't go for my run. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really listening to your body and finding what nourishes you. For me, there's several things that are important each day. Getting up in the morning, having my herbal tea. Recently, I actually swapped from having chai first thing in the morning. I just realized it wasn't sitting well with me at the moment. So those of you who have tuned in for a while know I'm a chai fanatic. But at the moment, my body doesn't want chai, and I'm honoring that. I also like to do some journaling, some reflection, some planning for the day, maybe yoga first, then my morning meditation, before I venture outdoors to see my beautiful horse Chit Chat, who's always so happy to see me because it's breakfast time for her. So these are important things to me, as is having some time in nature, going for my walk, my mindful eating, choosing foods that nourish me. And that is understanding that deeper practice of mindful eating, that mindful eating is not just the experience of eating itself, but checking in before and afterwards as well, to assess whether the amount of foods, the types of foods, are really nourishing and supporting my mind and body. And if you would love to learn more about how the practice of mindful eating can support your eating habits and your goals for health and well-being, then please book in for a free mindful eating strategy call. And this call is very much like the discussion I'm having with you now, reflecting on what works, what doesn't work, and most importantly, where to start in your health and well-being journey so you don't feel overwhelmed. And this is why it worries me that well-being has become an industry, because sometimes, as I mentioned in my own journey with well-being, trying too hard actually worsens your experience of health and also happiness. So being confident in tuning in to your mind and body is so central to well-being, because it allows you to be in the moment and to bring your tools of life into the moment and choose the ones that are most appropriate in that moment, rather than acting on autopilot and going perhaps into that fight or flight response. And over the long term, that chronic stress can lead to adrenal fatigue and other sorts of health problems. So, as I've been encouraging throughout my reflection today, allow Wellbeing Week to become a new benchmark for you, to understand where you are on your wellbeing continuum. And everyone's wellbeing continuum is different because we all want to experience life differently and accomplish different things. And sometimes we just want to sit and do nothing, and that's part of wellbeing as well. So take out the comparisons with others. Even take out the comparison of what you could do or how you looked or how strong you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because who you are today is very different to who you were even yesterday or an hour ago. We're continually changing, and I believe that the importance of well-being is allowing us to enjoy our life no matter what's happening, to make the best of every situation. And little rituals like keeping gratitude diaries, spending that time in nature, catching up with your friend for a tea or a coffee, and having a good laugh. Having a soak in an aromatherapy bath, burning aromatherapy. And we certainly touched on that during Aromatherapy Week as well on the podcast. So draw on all of those sources of nourishment for you. They're all beneficial. And it doesn't matter what your health and well-being diagram looks like. It's more important how you feel and how much reserve you have in your own tank. I've really enjoyed sharing with you today, and I hope you have also appreciated the time just to stop and reflect on what well-being might mean for you and what little thing you can start doing or stop doing to replenish your chi. Because one thing that's important, whilst we can do things or be a certain way to top up our chi or our fuel tank, there's also some habits of mind and body that we can reduce to stop the leakage, so to speak, to stop that energy leaking out, to stop that fuel from leaking out. If there's something that you do that drains your energy, then see if you can do it differently. See if you can stop doing it if it's not an essential task. Someone might say to me, Sally Ann, my job's exhausting, or looking after a sick family member is exhausting. You may not be able to stop doing those things, but you might be able to do them differently, and you might be able to prioritize more of those things that recharge your battery. So think about and put into action things that will actually top up your chi, top up your energy reserves. Do more of the things that bring you joy and replenish you. And where possible, do less of the things that drain you. I would love to hear from you about your experiences of well-being, your goals for your health and well-being. Just message me, email me, and if you have enjoyed this episode, please share it on your social media pages. I look forward to sharing with you again next week. You have been listening to the Eating For You podcast with Sally Ann Pisk. If you are looking for additional support to enjoy a lifelong way of healthier eating, then join me in a free 30-minute call to see if our approach is right for you. I have included the link to book an obligation-free call in this episode's notes.